Alright, welcome back to the Medium Cool Show, episode 11. Today we got a special guest with us, Jonathan Slavin from Highland Park, Illinois, filmmaker, content creator for Madame Zuzus Coffee.
Yeah, I'm a festival director.
Yeah, dude.
Zuzus International Film Festival.
Yeah, introduce yourself, give some words.
Yeah, I'm the director of Madame Zuzus International Film Festival. It is a film festival that showcases and connects filmmakers from around the world, and it's just a cool spot to hang out and submit movies to if you guys want to come to it. But I also do marketing for Madame Zuzus, which is a tea shop, so I sell tea.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It looks like you're sitting close to Jack, but that's fine.
It's cool. We don't mind, dude.
Yeah, you're just a little kind of stinky, dude.
Okay, well.
Not sure if we can capture this on camera, but...
No, you can't capture that. It's not like a smell-o-matic show, you know?
Damn it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you, Jack. Wow.
How are you doing today?
I feel great. Yeah, this has been awesome.
This is the second guest on the show.
Whoa. Who was the first guest?
Jacob Mueller.
Oh, wow.
Luke Mueller's brother.
That's a tough follow-up.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Like, he has his own podcast and shit. And he's really good about talking about movies. The reason why I started this show is because, like, I went on their podcast, you know? I did the Steve Jobs podcast. And then I was inspired to do, like, my own show because I liked it so much. So, yeah, that's episode 11. 11 weeks in. We've done an episode every week for 11 weeks now. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, John is a filmmaker, too, and he likes movies, too. He watches a lot of pictures, and yeah, anything else you want to say about yourself?
No, just love making movies. So let's talk about movies, because talking about movies is making movies. What are we talking about today?
All writing is rewriting, dude.
All right, Jack, what are we doing today?
Well, so we watched a couple of movies that we're going to talk about this last week, and then we watched a movie with you yesterday. Under the Silverlake is something you really wanted to watch.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of nostalgic for you here.
Great rabbit hole to go down, so I went down it, and it was great when I watched it, but then coming back here, you guys wanted to do this podcast, and I thought, like, wow, like...
It's a show.
This show, sorry. When you guys asked me to do the show, I'm like, man, this would be a cool movie, because I haven't seen it here since. I remember having a good time watching it here, and, LA vibes, and we're in LA, so...
Yeah, it's interesting to see that movie, especially living in Los Angeles. It definitely resonates with young men, kind of like aimless search for meaning in LA. Yeah. You watched it in 2019?
Yeah. Yeah, when it came out,
yeah. It came out in 2018.
But I remember it kind of got fucked by the, it got really fucked on distribution, like totally, like they were gonna release it, then it just sat for a year, and then it got released or something. Like, it was really bad. Probably why it didn't probably do so good, because it got stunted. Yeah,
Under the Silverlake premiered at the Cannes International Film Festival in 2018. And then it was originally supposed to be released in like the fall of 2018, but it got pushed back to April 19th, 2019.
Yeah.
And I saw it on April 20th, 2019.
Wow.
So I'd been living in LA for a month at my in Silverlake.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Yeah.
I was living with my aunt and uncle at their house at the time. And I was in LA for a month at that point, and I didn't really have anything going on, like no friends, like nothing, like no work, because I had a job, but, you know, like I got like let go from it, so I was kind of just like in between jobs, kind of like searching, you know, like 22-year-old dude. I think I went to go see this movie on 4/20. I think when I saw it at the ArcLight in Hollywood, I went there on 4/20, and I remember going to the theater. I was kind of like in a bad mood because I was feeling like definitely like aimless and not knowing what I was doing with my life and shit. And then when I saw Under the Silverlake, like my whole mood changed, and I felt like much better after watching that movie.
And that was the sexual thing you're talking about?
Like I definitely really related to like the situation and the character, because living in like East LA, there's definitely a vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, like I saw Under the Silverlake at the ArcLight before it closed down, and when I
is that the Cinedome?
Cinerama Dome.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I saw it there, and I definitely really connected with it because I felt like I related to it a lot, and it felt good seeing someone on screen that was like doesn't have his like life together at all, like this like 30-year-old dude, like kind of like aimless, and he's trying to find some sort of purpose in his life, which he does, because Andrew Garfield plays this guy. We don't really know if he's an actor, what he does for work or whatever. He doesn't do anything for work. He kind of just like is, you know, he's kind of like a drifter and shit. Mm-hmm. But he lives in this apartment in East LA. He's about to be evicted in 5 days. If he doesn't get his rent paid in 5 days, he's going to get evicted. During that period, though, he goes on this journey to uncover this sexual conspiracy with like this underground conspiracy and shit.
Well, there's like. What's like I think really cool about this film compared to It Follows, which is the only two movies I think he's done, is It Follows is just so contained, and it kind of like, it just so like, you know, but it almost has like some plot holes where you're like, all right, whatever, but it just like is like so contained. And this film is like the opposite, where like it goes in every direction, all which ways, and all kind of leaves you unsatisfied with every kind of conspiracy theory, because they kind of like layer up, and there's like things going on shit, and it gets really complicated, and it is cool to just kind of like thematically do the opposite of It Follows, where you're just everywhere not satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like,
yeah, David Robert Mitchell wrote and directed Under the Silverlake, and then his feature before that was the 2014 art house horror A24 picture It Follows, which I liked a lot.
Who did the music for the A24 picture It Follows?
Disaster Piece. Yeah, Disaster Piece did the score for this, which is a great score. I think I like the It Follows one more. It's a little bit more iconic. Yeah. I think I might like Under the Silverlake more as like a movie, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, even though they're different, but there's definitely some horror aspects to this movie. For sure, some surrealistic qualities through the entire picture.
Well, it's like a neo-noir kind of.
Yeah, it's a neo-noir. It definitely has homages to like films like Sunset Boulevard and Mulholland Drive, and then like noir films like The Long Goodbye and like Big Sleep and shit like that. Like these investigative things that go down.
Yeah, like some conspiracy going on in LA. But the thing that really stood out to me that I really appreciated about this movie, as the movie's going on and he's uncovering this conspiracy, you start to kind of realize that he's uncovering this conspiracy that there's no conclusion to, right? Like, you kind of get his, he achieves, like, finding out where the girl is that's missing.
Yeah, well, why don't we talk about, like, the plot, though, with the girl? Well, why don't we start from the beginning? Basically, we have this guy, Andrew Garfield, living in this apartment he's about to get evicted from, and he's very kind of has, like, these voyeuristic qualities where he, like, looks at his neighbors and stuff, and he has, like, this hot cougar that lives across the way that's always, like, topless and shit, and he's, like, watching her with, like, binoculars, and then they have a pool in the courtyard of their apartment where he's, like, watching people, and there's this like, really, like, striking blonde down there that's swimming in the pool with her dog, and then she like notices him because he gets a knock on the door and she sees that he's watching her, and then when he notices that they make eye contact, and he like kind of like ducks away and then goes into the apartment to answer the door, and then later on he's able to he meets the girl because her dog is waiting outside her door, and then he has like dog treats in his pocket, and he's able to like start talking to the girl, and they go inside and kind of hit it off and shit, and then the next day realizes that the girl disappeared and he's trying to find her, and that leads him down this rabbit hole, this whole investigation, which is the catalyst for the film. She's the MacGuffin that he's trying to find, and along the way he discovers his whole conspiracy of this sort of political, sexual, whatever, however you would describe it. And then you have this kind of the subplot of this dog killer going around Silver Lake, like killing dogs and shit.
Online, there's this theory that he's the dog killer.
I can see that, because he's got the treats and stuff.
He's got the treats, and then also throughout the movie you kind of see that he puts on this like nice guy persona with a lot of people, but then when there's some kids or something that's like weaker than him, like he's not afraid to like beat the shit out of people, you know? He kind of has like a little bit of a violent streak in him.
Because the motive for the dog killer was like he was an actor that like had contempt for dogs because they had like stardom or something. I don't know exactly what pinpoint was, but I just felt like, I think it was how much he like gets barked at by people or stuff. Like he just starts seeing people like a stretch, but I definitely think that could be a thing, and his being contempt with something, because I don't really remember the point I was trying to make, but like
no,
definitely.
I mean, there's a couple things, right? So when he first meets the girl, Riley Keough or something.
Yeah, Riley Keough, Elvis Presley's granddaughter, and her mom just passed away like a few months ago.
Yeah, R.I.P. But when he first meets her, he's like, "Oh, I love dogs. Yeah, my dog just died," and stuff like that. And then when he's talking to the other girl, the producer's daughter, when they're by the Silver Lake, he's like, "Yeah, I hate dogs," and stuff like that. And he kind of changes his perspective on things throughout the movie, where he's like, "Oh yeah," he like follows the homeless king, and then he's like, "I hate homeless people." Like he's not really a consistent character throughout the picture, and I kind of really like that.
Yeah. That was actually really cool. I didn't think about that.
This movie definitely is from the perspective of a male. Like
definitely. And the filming is like from the perspective of a male.
Yeah,
the framing and stuff.
Yeah, definitely a straight white male living in a city, because we're seeing everything through his perspective, and like when he sees women, he like definitely like looks at them kind of in a definitely like sexually for sure. But if you are like a straight single white guy, you know, horny bastard, which he is, because this is definitely a horn dog movie. It's very sexual.
He's so sexual.
Like every girl he sees, he like looks at her ass, right? which is kind of like, I mean, you can make the argument that that's kind of like a male, objectifying women for the film, but also like if you are a dude, like, and you see a hot girl walking on the street, like, what do you do? Like, what do you look at? Like, for real, you know what I mean? Like, it's actually not far off from what is actually going on in a guy's head when you see a hot girl on the street, especially in Los Angeles, because there's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of beautiful women, and he is definitely like tempted by them throughout the movie. But also, he kind of puts himself in that situation to like try to get in their pants. Like every girl he meets. I never thought that he was like attracted to like the musicians and stuff, and then like you kind of see them when he's jerking off and stuff. He's like jerking off to pictures of them and stuff.
He's jerking off to pictures of the conspiracy.
Yeah, all the women that he sees throughout the movie, he's like jerking off to them.
Yeah,
it's like so weird.
Like, and how many women does he have sex with in this movie?
What?
How many women does he have sex with in the movie?
He has sex twice. He has sex at the beginning, and then he has sex at the very end
with the cougar.
Yeah, it's like it's a bookend, right? But the whole
What about the girl in the silver? Remember, he goes with the girl at the Silver Lake. The guy who's killed.
Yeah.
He goes with her to the Silver Lake, and they get naked and shit, and then they're gonna fuck, and then she's like, "Oh, someone's following me."
She's like, "Pretend we're fucking." He's like, "We're not."
Yeah, that was great.
But there's like a lot of like boobs and sex and stuff, and there's like a really graphic like sex scene in the beginning with the exposition scene where he's like fucking that blonde bitch from Garfunkel and Oates.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're like the angles they do. It's like very, very sexual. Like he's like fucking her doggy style, like from the angles from the front and shit. And like
yeah. No, it's like a horn dog movie for sure. But I think the thing I like too is like he has sex at the beginning, and then pretty much throughout the entire movie, he's just trying to have sex again.
Yeah, and it's hard not to pitch a tent during this picture sometimes.
For you, yeah.
Definitely also some reoccurring characters, like Topher Grace's character, who's just like this hipster dude living in Highland Park who has his own voyeuristic qualities. Yeah. And there's definitely a commentary on like actresses in LA because it gets kind of brought up a little bit. When they're filming they're filming with a drone.
That was so sad.
That was such a good scene.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
But we're like witnessing this woman who's like super hot. She's like definitely a model, and then when she starts to like cry because she probably has some shit going down in her life. You know what I mean? Definitely like if you're like a model actor like in LA, like there's probably some weird shit going in.
It's just I like how it's two dudes just chilling and they're like, oh, look at this girl, she's gonna get naked, and then she just like starts undressing and like sobbing and like that. There's something about and just like the framing of it too. It's on like a computer screen and then it's zooming in on the computer screen. Like that was such a good scene. And it's just really like kind of a commentary on like male gaze and Hollywood, I guess.
Yeah, with the score, the disaster piece score that's playing too, it's like pretty good. Topher Grace's character, I guess, is just kind of like this guy who's like his friend who has some sort of perspective, I guess, because there's a part where Andrew Garfield's sitting with him in his backyard and he's telling him how he's asking him, oh, do you ever feel like you have a greater purpose, or is you're supposed to be like doing something more, like you're destined to like do something great or whatever, and he tells him that's just narcissism 101. Everyone feels that way. Everyone feels like everyone in the world definitely feels that they have something greater to offer, but not everyone can do something great. It's only like a few amount of people who actually do it, but everyone has that inside them where they feel like they have to have some sort of purpose. And I think that Andrew Garfield's purpose is to uncover this conspiracy, because he feels definitely aimless city where everyone's trying to do something, but they never really do.
I like, there's a quote, I can't remember who says it, but something like, oh, life is like a carnival and we're all trying to throw rings at oversized bottles.
Oh, yeah. Who did say that?
In the movie?
Yeah, in the movie, yeah. And I like that because I feel like...
King say that?
Maybe it was the dude, the songwriter.
Oh, the songwriter scene was fucked up. That was so cool, but like, man... I was like trying to crank it up too. I was like, no, I think that scene is just because I mean it's very interesting to see about the coding and stuff. And ever since I've seen this movie, I've like tried to like look for little ways. But like, I mean, I have found a band that like is so bad, but they literally look like Jesus and the Vampire Brides or whatever. Like they literally are that tier and stuff. And I'm like, man, like I listen to it and sometimes I'm watching like the claps or whatever, and I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about like how media can just be so like controlled And, like, sure, there are hidden messages. Like, you can have, like, you got this new Harry Styles album, which is, like, you know, whatever. Like, you can't, like, that has to be so produced, like, overly produced.
Yeah,
so
a
crazy
million
shit going
people, like
on.
100 writers.
But, like, but then you get, like, other stuff that, like, is just so genuine that, like, they couldn't stop it because it's, like, out there. And it's very interesting working with, like, the Smashing Pumpkins in that sense, because I do feel like, I do think that, like, Billy, like, from my experience with him, but I could be completely wrong, this is just from my perspective, is that he's just, like, so wild and just, like, if Hollywood could have stopped him, they would have. But he just wrote something that was so beautiful, and, like, so many people were like, fuck yeah, like, this is it. That it just, like, there's something genuine there, maybe not coding. Because I feel like the Pumpkins are a weird band, because on paper, sometimes I just, like, don't think this should work. But, like, it does. But I also feel that way about, like, a band like the Talking Heads, where they just have, like, a song like, Where's My Beautiful Life? You know, it's like, Once in a Lifetime. And it's, like, they're just so dorky, and they're so not cool that they are cool. So I do think, like, there are pockets of just, like, things that are just so genuine, and they mean something to the heart, that the world actually embraces, but, like, well, 90% of mainstream, I'd say, but, like, is, like, overtly, like, composed and meant to tell a story, meant to, like, have a pattern that's for someone to pick up. But I do think there are genuine stuff out there as well, but doesn't mean some of the cool stuff, like, I mean, I still like music, you know, like, mainstream stuff, like, even mainstream movies, you can really, like,
oh yeah, there's definitely coding in that. For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably coding in a lot of things. Even like Billy Corgan in the Smashing Pumpkins, it's definitely his unique voice, but he's also trying to put out his own message as well, like his own sort of coding, what he wants to say to the world, you know?
Yeah.
And just for context, we're talking about Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins, who John works for. That's why. Yeah, there's definitely like things that get put into the movies that are unseen, or they're like subliminal or something, and it's up for like population to discover it, or just one person to unravel the whole thing.
The thing I really liked about this movie, though, that really stood out to me is he's trying to find meaning in a meaningless life.
Yeah.
So he's trying to search for meaning in LA, where just everyone has this narcissistic tendency to think that they have something special to offer. There is no greater meaning in the movie. Like, it's, if you read between the lines, what all the characters say and stuff, why does the songwriter look so old and stuff? I think the director really puts in all these little hidden things, but they have no meaning behind them, just to try to make you search more for meaning in the movie.
But also more, like, realistic. Like, it just, because that's the thing, it's, like, unsatisfied, but there are so many, like, plot points I wish they would focus on more, like the owl woman. That was so cool, but she really kind of glides in and out there, and you really don't, are so unsatisfied.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that are asked and never answered, but also like the whole LA vibe of him going to all these weird different hipster parties and stuff, and all the set pieces are really dope, you know?
Yeah.
All the set pieces are great. Yeah. Like him going to these different parties, and then obviously he has like kind of a tripping scene, which is par for the course for a movie like this, and all the characters, and this is a really cool, like, original screenplay that they were able to produce, like A24, and it's all like very lush, very professional, really well shot, and Andrew Garfield is great in it and stuff.
Oh, he's so good, dude. This might be one of my favorite performances from him, because he's such like a douchebag, where he normally plays like a nice guy, you know.
Yeah, and I definitely relate to, like, you know, when he gets like the calls from his mom and stuff. She's like, "Oh, I'm sure you're super busy," and and there's
I can't do anything.
Yeah, the whole Janet Gaynor thing. Like, there's all these like weird little connections that go on in the movie. It's kind of hard to go over all of it, but you know, when it was originally released, it really got a lot of mixed reviews from critics and stuff, and it definitely flopped financially. It cost like $8 million, and they made like $2 million. But since then, it actually has attracted a cult following, you know, and I'm definitely a part of that cult for sure, because I definitely support this film. There should be more like it, and I'm very much into that neo-noir type vibe, film noir in general, investigative stuff, where when they actually unravel the conspiracy, they realize it's too big for them to actually like solve the problems. When they actually realize that they're actually like, oh shit, like I found out what's going on, but there's actually nothing that I can do to help these people that are like the victims of this. It's all just bigger, you know, too big to fail, and I can't take it down because there's just too much backed behind it, too much influence, and even the victims of it are like okay with what's going on by the end of the film.
What I took away from it was not that like the success of unraveling it, but this message of just how unreliable of a narrator he is. You know what I mean? Like I really like that he's like he really thinks that it's so important and there's so much meaning, but like he only knew her for one day, and he feels like he's kind of owed time with her or something, and like just how you follow this character that's like really flawed and he takes you through this story from his perspective, but then like there's so much message behind it. Like if like you're on theme with the film, that's like this guy is like could be the dog killer. This guy is like not a good guy and stuff, and he's trying to find meaning, but he's like really just kind of one step away from being homeless, like one step away from being those people that he hated.
Yeah, and it's almost like he's chasing something that he doesn't have. He does have this, like, I mean, it's just like his friend, the girl that he fucks, like his like fuck buddy. Like he has like this hot girl in his life, and he obviously women are attracted to him throughout the movie. But there's this one girl that like evades his attention, and I kind of get that. Like sometimes you meet a girl that for some reason is very like you become very enamored with or obsessed with, and like you don't have her, so you have to like chase that, even though it's pretty much going to be the same as any other person. But it's really about like people want what they can't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like him obsessed with this like blonde girl, like almost like straight out of a movie, like Marilyn Monroe type, unattainable type shit.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the elites and their little sex?
Sure.
Service?
You want to talk about
the
it?
spoilers?
Why don't you bring it up?
No, it's interesting how you're getting married under the cement at the end of the movie, and pretty much all the girls are somehow connected to like this like service where you can like pretty much it's like a call girl service, and you can call someone who's like moderately famous or just like a 15 minutes famous up. And then the thing that was like really really alarming, then I'm like, whoa, this is fucked up. And there's this one girl in the thing, and they're like, what were you in? And she's like, oh, I was a child actor at the age of 6 months.
Yeah,
People
and that's so LA. Like they're like, oh yeah, I'm an actor, and then like, oh, what have you been in? Oh, I was in a movie when I was 5.
Yeah.
It's like, so does that really make you an actor? But there's kind of this posership going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of people like say that they're something when they're like maybe did it one time. You know, because we met actors who have been in like 2 short films.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been in LA for like a long time, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm an actor.
But I like the juxtaposition of like how the women view the world versus how he views the world. In the movie, the women are like, yeah. He's like, wow, you're really successful. She's like, I wouldn't call it successful. I barely got paid. I was in one indie film. You know? And like they don't have any like grander illusions for themselves. They're just like going through the motions, whereas he's like, no, I have to find meaning in like why I'm here, why I'm doing this. You know? And I think it's almost better to have that ignorance of not worrying about finding meaning for yourself and just like enjoying life. Like that's why when he's with the balloon girl in like the underground club, she's like, why, like we're only here for such a little bit, let's just like enjoy life. And he can't do that, you know? And like, I don't know, there's something really cool about that commentary.
This film is definitely for me. Like I feel like it was like almost like made for like us, like living in East LA and shit, and walking the streets and that vibe. You get like sort of this surrealistic fantasy sort of vibe, this weird like world that you're in, where it's like LA is very like it's very glamorous, and there's a lot of vanity and shit, and there's also like this like sinister underbelly like going on. It's like from the outside you see LA, and you just see like the 1% of like all the actors, like the Margot Robbies, all the successful people. And then when you move to LA, you kind of see like everyone else that's going on and down there. All right, so for our next movie, our guest just fucked off and left.
He just left,
like
dude.
Middle of the show, our guest like left.
He just doesn't want to do it. Like he said that we're fucking assholes, and he threw something across the room and just left.
Yeah, he just like freaked out in a rage and then like stormed out of here. So our guest is gone, but I guess we'll just have one movie with the guest, and the rest can just be the regular medium cool show.
Mm-hmm.
The regular show.
Yeah.
The regular cool show.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Yeah, I guess because he didn't watch the movies that we're about to talk about, so he felt like he wasn't necessary, and he wanted to be necessary to the show. Mm-hmm. And when he realized he was useless, he like went into a fit of rage.
Yeah, which, I mean, what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna keep him here. You know, I'm not gonna like handcuff him to the couch.
Yeah.
I think he would have been a good addition to these movies.
Yeah, you could have just like added some. You could have just like had some commentary. I mean, I'm sure he knows something about Federico Fellini.
Yeah.
Which we're going to talk about now because we watched 1973's AMARCORD, written and directed by Federico Fellini.
My favorite movie of all time.
Real? That's your favorite movie of all time?
It's got to be up there with Mulholland Drive and like a couple others, but yeah, in that category of like, I'll watch this movie when anytime anyone wants to watch this, I'll watch it. It is so impactful in my life and how I see movies. I love what he has to say about this. I love how mature Fellini is at this stage of his life. And just as a director, what he's able to accomplish just looks so effortless. God, he really puts together such a good movie here.
Yeah, definitely in my top 3 Fellini movies that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I've seen AMARCORD a couple times now. Great movie. Like, it's him on a new level from his previous pictures. Like, it's a new jump for him in a way, you know?
Yeah.
Like, when you think about his whole career before this, it's like everything that's great about a Fellini movie put together in AMARCORD.
Mm-hmm.
But he tells like this very wholesome coming of age story
Mm-hmm.
set in fascist Italy in the early 1930s.
Yeah.
When he grew up. You know what I mean? This is a totally different time in history that we understand.
Mm-hmm.
And to think that when he was making movies post World War II, you know what I mean? Like, he was part of the whole neo-realist movement.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is like his actual like period piece about Italy in that time.
His life, how he grew up. I think it's so interesting. So AMARCORD means I remember, which I think is so beautiful because it really is like kind of autobiographical about him and about his friends when they were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting comparing this to his early work of I Vitelloni, because I feel like they're so similar. It's like they're shot in the same place, right? He's so much more mature and he has so much more perspective on life by the time he makes AMARCORD, that he's able to zoom out from his life as a young man to the full picture of his life growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's able to encompass this movie with feelings of all kinds of people in the town and all different characters. It's just so wholesome in a way.
Yeah. Like, the movie's about a kid growing up in the early 30s in this town. It's based on Federico Fellini's friend that he grew up with, basically, and it takes place 1 year in his life. And you start at the end of the school year, right? And then we go to the spring of the next year, and we see like the 4 seasons unfold in his kind of this year, and we see the life of his family and like what he goes through, and kind of him kind of coming of age in this. In this town.
But also all the characters add to it. It's not honed in on one character, you know? It's just this like crazy ensemble of the whole town that make up this crazy fun place, you know? It's really funny too. I think it's probably Fellini's most comedic movie.
Yeah, it's also funny and dramatic and has like a historical context to it, because all those movies previously, I think Satyricon might have been his first period piece. He was working in the post-World War II contemporary neo-realist aspect. So he was making movies that took place during the day, like during the time that they were made.
Yeah.
There wasn't necessarily a World War II commentary, but we were seeing in the mise-en-scène and the destruction of buildings in Rome, like his sets and everything, because in post-World War II, everything was bombed out and there was actually no studios to like make any movies in. So they had to film everything on the streets, which is why we have like that sort of street guerrilla filmmaking happen in France as well. And super influential on like American directors who would like shoot guerrilla on the street and stuff. And they moved away from that set-bound style to like more realistic filmmaking, which kind of is how everyone shoots today still, in a way. We saw people's lives in contemporary Italy post-World War II, but there wasn't necessarily like a commentary on Mussolini or Italy during World War II. But this is like almost the first time we're actually seeing Federico Fellini showing a story during fascist Italy, during Mussolini's reign, during that time, pre-World War II. So this is before like all like this shit was hitting the fan, you know, with like, obviously there was like rampant fascism going on in Europe at the time. You know, you got Italy, you got like Franco in Spain, and then you got, you know, the H-man.
Germany.
That was going on.
It's really interesting too, because it's more of a backdrop for the film, and it's something that's always in the back of your mind of how these young kids are growing up in this kind of fascist, but also like super Catholic Italy.
Yeah.
Like the reign of Catholicism and fascism mixed together at this time, and how there's kind of like a loss of questioning and a loss of like
identity in a way. I think when it comes to identity, because, you know, fascism, they want to have total control over the look of, they want all the people to be the same and follow their own ideology. And during this time, like, people did really love Mussolini. Like, they actually, like, loved him during this period. He had a lot of, like, he really reformed Italy, and he kind of threw out the old caste and the old government and shit, and super cult of personality, like, changed, like, industries and everything. And it was actually very productive, and people did love Mussolini and shit. And that's presented in this movie, kind of both sides. You have, like, all of his, like, followers, like, cheering for him. All the women, like, love Mussolini. They want to, like, marry him and stuff. And then you get that other side of it where not everyone agrees with it. And we see the consequences for that, because the main character's father is anti-fascist guy. Yeah. And he plays a prank on the fascists by putting up a phone. What are those things called? The speakerphone thing?
Yeah, it's like a phone. No.
The vinyl speaker player? What do you call that?
Yeah, I don't know what you call it.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
One of those things where you can play a record on and it has the fucking trumpet at the top of it. What do you call it? I don't know, like something phone.
They know what it is.
Yeah. But he plays that during a fascist march. He plays some song during a fascist march to disturb it, and then they shoot it down. Yeah. And they eventually bring him in for questioning, interrogate him, and like beat him up and shit. Yeah. Because they're not following his own ideology, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's kind of classic dictatorship.
One thing I love about this movie is that's just one aspect of this film.
Yeah.
There's so much more here. You see how horny all the kids are.
This is Federico Fellini's horniest movie.
Yes, definitely. You see how repressed these children are. You see how controlled they all are. And you see how all the adults are kind of just following along with this like fascist ideology. They're all encompassed in the Italian identity. And it's so interesting that it just goes through a year of time in this, and you feel like, all these different ideas that he's putting in it would make for a very chaotic script or chaotic story, and you wouldn't be able to follow it, but it all flows together so well.
Oh yeah, no, everything works really well. All the characters he depicts young people all the way through old people and relationships, and then what it's like to be a young kid in this time where you have a bunch of hormones you don't necessarily understand. You have like peer pressure, a lot of boobs, a lot of fucking butts, and you and your friends jerking off in a car. You know, like that whole scene is great. And then the scene with the tobacco lady, that scene is such a horn dog scene,
it's so horny, dude. Yeah, it's really good at just depicting everyone's perspective in the town. And I just love this movie. It's very nostalgic, and you can feel the nostalgia coming out. Like I said, I think Fellini's maybe one of the best directors at like evoking a certain emotion and being able to sell that to an audience that might not be familiar with that.
No, it's very like he's very human. Like he understands people. You can tell that he's like lived a life and he understands people, like everyone. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the scene where, you know, when he's near the end of the movie, his mother passes away and stuff. And you have this whole funeral procession and everyone's sad. But then there's that shot of little kid in the cart, like going like, and it's like totally inappropriate for that time. But like this kid is just like doesn't even know what's going on. He's just like a fucking kid in this.
It's a little cousin, like that. But that is so real too. You know what I mean? Like that it's not. You're always going to be sad when you're grieving. Like there's going to be moments where you're happy and like moments where your cousin's silly, you know, like it really feels so human. It's not put on for anyone other than himself, and he's sharing it with the world. And that's so cool. You know, he's such a master director at that period, 1973, that he can make this amazing movie and pull it off.
Yeah. And this is like after the cultural revolution of film, you know what I mean? And I love the way that he builds scenes in this too. Like there's like, it's almost like we're following vignettes of this family in a way. And like in particular, there's this scene where he's at dinner with his family and he comes home and it kind of goes on for a while, but you see like this development of the dad like getting more and more upset at the kids and then his wife and shit, and it kind of just explodes and they come back, and like I love that scene. And then also the whole sequence with, you know, everyone has that crazy uncle in their family and shit, and like they like go on this little trip with the uncle who like goes into a tree and just gets stuck up there. He doesn't want to come down. This this whole scene and sequence that goes down. I love that the way he builds scenes up to the end, and then it's like move on in time and stuff. Like I think it's so great. Like the writing is amazing, and he has such a good like comedic touch to it because like he was like a cartoonist before, right? But he's telling like real stories, and he's able to like use all of these like thematics to really build on it, and
I love the feeling of like everyone knows everyone in the small town, and new people come in. Like everyone knows like, oh, who are these new women that are coming in, you know? And when they have like the bonfire at the beginning, it's just, you see like how everyone interacts with everyone. I love the way he builds scenes. The vignettes are so like, that's such a perfect word for what he does here. The scene in the mist at the beginning where the grandfather is like leaving, and then the little kid like sees the bowl, and then you see Titta and his friends like dancing to the music that's not playing. There's something so beautiful about that. Just kids in a small town, people in a small town living life, you know?
Yeah. And this is like...
It reminds me a lot of Fanny and Alexander.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I love Fanny and Alexander too.
Yeah, this is a direct comparison to Fanny and Alexander because this is like both their last great masterworks, their last great masterpieces that they came up with. It's an accumulation of all their work put into one movie, like everything that was great about all their movies put into one movie. With Fanny and Alexander, Lars von Trier says it's like a highlight reel of everything that was great in the one movie, but it works for me, you know what I mean? Like Fanny and Alexander is my favorite Ingmar Bergman movie. And that's a movie you can show to anyone because like sometimes like maybe Federico Fellini or Ingmar Bergman, you can't show like a regular pleb like persona, you know what I mean? You can't just show someone like little Dolce Vita or like 8.5 or something like that, you know what I mean? But you can show anyone AMARCORD, you can show anyone Fanny and Alexander. It has a sort of mainstream appeal, but still like artistically great.
Yeah.
Artistically great and a period piece.
I think it was Picasso that said like, I've studied my whole life to learn how to draw like a child again or something. Paraphrasing that. But I feel similar with Ingmar Bergman and Federico Fellini in this because they depict childhood and youth in such a pinpointed, mature way. It feels so realistic and true to their lives. It's amazing. You know what I mean? And it's so interesting that you kind of have to mature as a person to be able to really reflect on your life and reflect on your childhood. Yeah. And
it's interesting, the censorship before and after like the late 60s.
Yeah.
Like Federico Fellini had to kind of, you know, he was definitely dealing with censors and he couldn't show as much as he wanted. And I don't think he knew that he could show as much as he wanted until we had like Pasolini come along and the Cultural Revolution. Then we realized just how horny he was. As an older guy, he was just as horny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Pasolini really paved the way for everyone.
Yeah, for real.
This is interesting. This is the first movie that was letterboxed.
It's one of the first in the Criterion.
I believe it's number 4, I think. Yeah.
Number 4, yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. It was the first movie to be kind of like adapted from wide aspect ratio to like standard video format and still keep the aspect ratio that they wanted for home video. I love this movie, dude. I'll show this to anyone. I'm going to praise this movie forever. I think it's so good.
Yeah, and everyone in this movie has something going on in like their head and their life. You know what I mean? Like even though there's sort of this quality of them looking at women, but the women, especially like this woman, what's her name, Grandiosa. Grandiosa, she's like a hot woman that seems like she has the whole world in her hands, but she also kind of suffers with her own sort of existential, like, oh, what am I doing with my life? Like, I need to marry the right man. I need to do this. Like, I'm only getting older, even though everyone else looks at her as a goddess. You know?
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, praising her. She's like the beauty of the town. You know, she's one of the it girls of the town.
Yeah.
She has these like big ideas for life, like finding meaning in what she's doing, and you kind of see it. It's like, why would you want to leave? Like you're the shit in this town. Like, this is your town. This is your home. But hey, I get it. You know.
Yeah, and she marries that guy. Who did she marry?
She just married some dude at the end. I don't know who he is. Some
Isn't
prince
that
or something.
doesn't he meet her at the hotel or some shit?
No, we don't see him. We don't see him before.
It's like some general or some shit.
Yeah, just some dude that's like, it's so funny. She's married off like so quickly, you know, because she just really wants to get out of there. And then she's way too good for this dude, you know, which is like funny. This dad in the movie is so fucking good.
Yeah.
He really he's the backbone of this movie. Just his acting is so fucking good. And my dad wasn't like that, but I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I get it. Like just sometimes as a dad, you're like, what the fuck? Like
yeah, dude, you're like, fuck you, like raise these kids wrong.
Yeah.
Like fighting with his wife and the Italian like dinner scene and like the like Italians do like food scenes so good. Dude.
Oh my god, so good.
It's like so homely and shit, and like the spaghetti and the pasta or whatever they're eating, the chicken that they're eating and stuff. Like it all looks like so good.
Yeah,
it's something that definitely like Scorsese takes away.
Yeah,
from that.
Definitely.
The way it's shot looks amazing too, dude. Like all the sunset shots and the people moving around. There's like such big, good, crazy set pieces in this too. Like all the people and everything. Federico Fellini like definitely became, sketched into the history of cinema as one of the GOATs after this movie for sure.
Like Jake was saying last week, he is, such one of the most ambitious filmmakers ever. And you see what he's able to pull off when he kind of is able to rein himself in a little bit more and make just this fucking amazing movie. So it's AMARCORD or AMARCORD?
AMARCORD.
AMARCORD.
AMARCORD. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great movie. We should watch Roma next or something.
Yeah, I'm down to watch Roma. I kind of want to check out Juliet of the Spirits.
Yeah.
Too, because that's one that's snuck in between Satyricon and In Half.
Oh, yeah. But Roma he slipped that in between Satyricon and AMARCORD.
Yeah.
Which I definitely want to see more of his like later 70s type shit, not necessarily the black and white neo-realistic stuff. It's like, I do like that too, but it'd be cool to see Roma or some shit like that. Yeah. The
GOAT director. I'll praise all this stuff. I love the scene too where it's the boat that's taking people places and they all go out at sea at night and then the boat's coming by and they all have like so much just respect for like what they were able to create. They have so much like a national identity behind this ship that they were able to make, and it's cross-continental. They have this massive cruise liner, and that's something that they're all so passionate about. Whereas you can't say the same about fascism, you can't say the same about religion, and I think that was like a really cool commentary on Italy. It was like, we can get behind our identity as a people, as like what we're able to bring to the world, as opposed to what we kind of subject ourselves to, which is this militant Catholicism or fascism.
Yeah, for sure. And you definitely see that sort of national cult of personality identity when they have that, like the huge fucking face of Mussolini.
Yeah, that looks so cool though.
Yeah. That shot of Mussolini's face, like there, and the fascists running through in the uniforms and shit.
Yeah.
Definitely an interesting juxtaposition between like how you really feel, because like all these guys are so horny and they're like totally like, they're like definitely like acting into their horniness because they're like jacking off and shit and they love men, they love like women and whatever, and then the priest is like telling them how bad they are, and it's almost a movie about like going with like how you feel versus like these things that combat it, whether it is fascism or Catholicism or whatever.
And the last thing I want to say is I also really love the depiction of Titta's parents, like their relationship they had, where they fight, but then they also are so sweet to each other, in certain scenes. Like, I love that depiction of marriage, where like when he gets beat up, she's like scrubbing him and she's washing him and stuff, and he's just kind of like this mopey guy, and when she is sick, he's really trying to care for her. You don't really see that depiction much anymore,
No, yeah, you felt like these are really lived-in characters that they've been together for a while, and it's like you're dropped in the middle of it. Yeah,
and also, just nowadays, they might not, if they don't work out, they would get a divorce or something, but they don't choose each other, but they make it work.
Yeah, well, they're living in a different time where they all grew up in the same town and shit, and you meet someone like in your town, introduced from your aunt or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not like modern society where you meet someone randomly out like at a bar. You know, it's like they probably grew up together, and like, there's only like a few people you could actually marry or like your proper suitors. You know?
Yeah, and that's what I kind of liked about it. It was like the kind of old time relationship they had, and the problems they had, but also like the love they had for their partner.
Yeah, and then just like in regards to the time, space, and memory aspect, it's like a director recalling a sort of nostalgic childhood memory that he places into a year. I think that's a very cool way of showing it.
Yeah, it is. I really like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you guys like my takes, I think you'll love this movie.
AMARCORD. Federico Fellini's AMARCORD. Yeah, so the next film on the docket that we're going to talk about that we watched was the 1990 crime drama thriller gangster picture, The King of New York. Written and directed by Abel Ferrara. Previously on the show with his directorial, it's actually his second feature because he made a porno feature before that.
Yeah.
But really it's like his debut, which was the sort of grindhouse exploitation film, The Driller Killer. Mm-hmm. Which was also written, directed, starring, produced Abel Ferrara.
Yeah.
And then we've also seen The Bad Lieutenant as well from 1992, which came out 2 years after The King of New York. The King of New York is starring Christopher Walken and Larry Fishburne. There's a few people in it, like Steve Buscemi's in it, right?
Steve Buscemi's in it.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Wesley Snipes is in it.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes is in it. Yeah, it's a lot of people. This is actually a pretty big movie. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
It is.
And you can see this is like a bigger, more ambitious film with a little bit more Hollywood studio stuff going down in it.
Yeah.
Because we have this sort of gritty street quality that Abel Ferrara is known for, and then we have sort of like a Hollywood gloss.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Hollywood gloss, but I never feel like it's too glossed over, you know?
Yeah, do you want to go over what the movie's about?
So it follows Christopher Walken, who I guess is this kind of New York gangster.
He's a drug kingpin.
That's a good way of putting it. And he's getting out of prison right when the movie starts, and I guess he's been in prison for like years now. And he goes back to New York and he wants to kind of bulldoze his way into the New York elites, and he wants to run for mayor. He wants it to be his city. He wants to do it right this time, is the sense I'm getting from him. But he doesn't go about it the right way. Like, he doesn't try to go legit. He doesn't try to turn a corner or anything. He's like, I'm going to be harsher now. I'm going to be more brutal. I'm going to fuck over all my enemies.
Yeah, like Christopher Walken comes home and he's greeted by like his gang, which is mostly a black gang from like Harlem or whatever. And he's actually, everyone who works for him is actually black or like Hispanic or something, because in a way he's like a character for the people.
Yeah, he is.
He has like this sort of Robin Hood quality where it's like, we're going to kill the bad and then we're going to take money and give it to like the poor. Yeah. But he's also like a very malicious, benevolent character where he just like will kill someone like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who like distrusts him. He like fucking he'll kill like another gang lead like right off the bat. He's like trying to clear the streets and like build up his empire again.
Yeah.
And he's also at the same time kind of trying to go legit because he wants to like run for mayor or whatever. Mm-hmm. But he has like this sort of quality of like he wants to help, but it's almost like he has like this kind of distorted worldview, probably because he's just like fucked up in the head. And he's a crazy guy. Christopher Walken is a crazy guy. I love Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
I love Christopher Walken. This movie, you know, it's good. Like I enjoyed watching it. I think the first half of the movie is really good. Like I was very entertained by it and stuff. And it was almost like I was watching like a good Scorsese gangster movie. Because I think Abel Ferrara and Scorsese are sort of in the same sort of wheelhouse, because they're both like from New York, Italian street. They came from the streets, like making street movies, you know, like Mean Streets and like Taxi Driver. And Abel Ferrara made like, you know, Driller Killer, Miss 45, Bad Lieutenant, like those very street driven crime, like gritty you know, shit going on.
The thing with me, dude, in this movie, I feel like narratively it doesn't work at times.
Yeah, it's kind of predictable.
The way he goes about things doesn't make sense. And then the whole cop storyline, where I feel like a third of this movie is us following cops and us kind of being sympathetic to the plight of the cops trying to figure out where all these killings are coming from, who's killing these gang leaders, right? And they fucking really have it out for Christopher Walken. They really have it out for him. And I feel like it's never justified. Like, I don't understand why they have it out for him so bad, because they're like, we're gonna fuck you up. Like, they like have to pull each other away from like shooting him, basically. He's just cleaning the street. Like, he's for the people. And the cops, what we see in the play, in the movie that Christopher Walken attends, cops are not for the people. But we're still following their storyline and their perspective a lot of times. And I feel like it never really lands for me to make sense. They could have dove deeper into that conflict between like police brutality and like the normal people, you know what I mean? But they never really do. And I feel like the animosity the cops and Christopher Walken's gang have for each other is never justified. It's never earned.
Yeah, there was kind of maybe a disconnect in that. I don't think it was like the tightest script ever. It's kind of more about this world building with these gangsters and the streets of New York, which Abel Ferrara does really well, but also, like you were saying during the movie, you kind of felt this sort of late 80s Hollywood gloss that doesn't necessarily work for that gritty New York feel, you know what I mean? Like, there's still, like, I mean, this movie came out in 1990, so we're coming off the 80s, right? And this is pre, indie revolution of the 90s, where everything kind of went back to, like, a darker time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There's, like, definitely, like, the Hollywood studio gloss that they do, and the kind of, like, a little bit of some dated techniques with, like, the music and the shots and the sentimentality of everything. And I feel like this movie kind of does follow, like, a typical gangster rise and fall formula in a way, where it's like Christopher Walken comes out and he starts doing all this like bad shit and the cops are after him, and then there's like a slow downfall, and you could kind of see it coming with like what's going on, and especially like Larry Fishburne. Larry Fishburne is like just a hothead, like guy who's definitely, you're like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna die, like this guy's for sure gonna die. He's too out of control for this, like that typical type of character that's just like gonna go out of control and be killed, and that's like, I mean, it's kind of predictable what's going to happen,
But he was the best character in it, dude.
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne's, like, so good in this.
Yeah, I like the scene where he goes into the chicken shop.
Yeah.
And stuff, and you kind of see, like, what this gang's all about from this one scene, because he goes in there and he's, like, telling the guy what to do and shit, and then, like, he gives them money for the kids to play the games, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, you can play the games, like, I'm going to give you, like, some cash, and this is for you, and he's like, they're trying to spread the wealth a little bit, you know?
Yeah. It never felt believable to me that Christopher Walken fit into this game. All like the hip hop music at the beginning.
I love that, dude. So that's another thing I liked about it, was like how much hip hop was in it.
Yeah, there's good hip hop.
I like that. Yeah.
But I never got the sense
for like 1990, like that's like before the golden age of hip hop.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of hip hop for a guy like Abel Ferrara to put in there. Like Scorsese would never put hip hop in his movies, but that felt like definitely more realistic with the connection of like these like Harlem drug dealers, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
But I never felt like Christopher Walken was like part of it. I always felt like he was like their leader, but they had like an understanding. It's never like he was like part of the group. I don't know. Like Christopher Walken dancing to hip hop just like looked so fucking weird to me, because he was not dancing to the beat, and it was like I don't know. It was weird, dude.
Yeah, and they like to like party and stuff. Too,
yeah.
You know.
Oh, they love to party, dude. Like that's pretty much all they do the entire movie. They're like, let's party and let's fuck people over.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about like what the overall message of this movie was. I mean, there's the Robin Hood commentary is kind of what I picked out from it, like this gangster who steals from the bad and gives to the poor, but also has his own destructive path, which is not necessarily like the best way of going about things, right?
Yeah.
You know, like he does have some moral compass, but then he's also like a hypocrite at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
I kind of felt like that as well.
Because New York is like fucked up during especially during the 70s.
Dude, during the 80s, oh my god, yeah, New York was like not New York today.
In an economical decline, and also in this movie they shoot at the Plaza Hotel, which was at the time was owned by Donald Trump, and Donald Trump said he's like, oh yeah, Abel, I'll do this tremendous favor if you take a picture with my wife Ivanka. She's a big fan of yours, and like that, and he was able to shoot at the Plaza Hotel for free because Christopher Walken took a picture with Ivanka Trump.
Really?
Yeah, Donald Trump. Yeah. He's like, Abel, I'm a huge fan of yours. huge, tremendous fan.
Fuck
And
Donald Trump, dude.
my wife Ivanka is a big fan of Christopher Walken. Can we get a picture? And then he gave him, you could shoot at the Plaza Hotel for free, dude.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's just an interesting little thing. Yeah, I mean, it was shot all on location in New York, which is cool. Like, that's very much that vibe of, where he came out of.
Yeah.
Like the 80s and stuff.
Yeah, I really like that aspect of it. I like the New York griminess. But like I said, I feel like it doesn't really land. Bad Lieutenant, that fucking lands, dude. That's such a good movie. And that griminess, it's just grimy enough to where you're just kind of repulsed by it. Same with Driller Killer. This, I never felt like got there.
Yeah, it was too... The griminess wasn't, like, super all there.
Yeah. Thematically, it's hard to
the
find.
The violence is good in it, and it comes out of nowhere sometimes.
Yeah, it does. I do think there were some cool like shooting scenes and stuff, but other than that, I was pretty fucking bored during it, and I just never felt like thematically it landed where it should have. I never felt like it had like a bigger meaning or anything like that, even though it's like trying to say it and like. I feel like Christopher Walken at times when I was watching him, I was like ready to fall asleep because it's just him staring at the skyline or some shit. Or, like, I don't know.
He's the king of New York.
Yeah, I know.
But there's definitely some melodrama.
Yeah, there's a little bit of melodrama with like Christopher Walken and the woman that's playing his girlfriend / lawyer.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was like more interested in like what Larry Fishburne had to do, and like that scene where there's the shootout, and then they like speed away from the cops and stuff, and then there's like the fight. I thought that was like the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I like the violence in it. I think Abel Ferrara does a really good job with the violence and blood and just the fucking like that shit's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But it all needs to flow together more, I think. And
yeah. I do like the part where like Christopher Walken's trying to go to all the different gangs and be like, yo, let's work together. Don't come over to my space and undercut like my workers and stuff like that. And they're like, fuck you. And they're like racist. And the Italian guy's like, yeah, if you live long enough to see that or something. And like as soon as he says that, Christopher Walken just turns around and shoots him. It's like, we're not going to come to an understanding. So what's the point of like trying to win him over? Or trying to be nice?
He's definitely a Machiavellian type character where he's like, like if there's the possibility that this person could be an enemy, take him out right away. Don't even wait for him to like strike. Even if there's a possibility in your mind that this person might fuck you over, even though there's no sign of it yet, like you just gotta take care of it right away. Yeah, definitely has that. And then you see the scene where I love the scene on the subway where he's making out with the lawyer and those like thugs come on and he's able to like manipulate the situations, like seduce them to like come and like work for him instead of getting robbed. Like he gives them like hella money and then he's like, yo, come work for me, I'm at the hotel, like come meet me there. And then they end up being there later in the movie partying and then they get killed, dude. No,
that was really cool. I really like that, how he like wins people over and then how he kind of like takes people from different gangs under his wing, like some of the Italian guys follow him. It's cool. There's one shot that I love too. It's like, I guess they're Chinese, the Chinese gang, when they like ambush them.
Oh yeah, the Chinese gang, yeah.
And they like surround them, and their leader, like who was like a fucking asshole, was like fucking them over the entire time. Which like I don't know why the leader didn't just take the deal, dude. It was like a good deal. They finally surround him, and then you see them like robbing them and taking all their drugs and everything, like all the stuff that they wanted to buy from them in the first place. And the camera's going around the room, and then it reveals at the very end that the guy's hanging there. I was like, sick. I really like that shot a lot.
And I like the part in the beginning. Like, so the first half of this movie flows really well. I love all the scenes, and like I was really entertained. And I love the scene where they execute that guy, and so they kill that guy in the phone booth. And there's also that scene where they're in the hotel room, they're doing the deal with the Colombian guy, and Lawrence Fishburne gives him the briefcase, and when he opens it, it's just a bunch of tampons. And he's like, what the fuck are these for? And he's like, they're for the bullet holes, and they fucking cap them up, and there's like huge shootout in there and shit. I love that shit. I love good shootouts.
The shootouts were cool.
It's like Narcos, dude. I like how people like give us advice on our show. Like, and even though they've never been on it, they're like, do nothing for it. They just give advice like how it should be, even though they like have no skin in the game at all with it. They just like say how things could be better, but they're just not gonna. They're not gonna do it. Like we like they expect us to like be the ones to like do what they say to make it better, even though it's not their show.
They're giving advice. But, like, you can never blame someone for giving advice. You can just be like, yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, that's a good idea. Anyone can give advice. It's hard to do it.
Yeah, but you can also, like, nitpick at other people's shit, dude.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone does that, right? Everyone's a critic. So, I mean, that's kind of what
everyone's
we're doing.
a critic, but they don't listen to their own advice.
Yeah, that's just hypocritical.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, if you want to start your own show, then you can do that. Like, thanks for the advice, I guess. But, like, I don't want to take advice from people who, unless they have some skin in the actual game, they're putting something in it, you know? Like, they're actually invested in it somehow. Otherwise, like, I don't really give a fuck. It's like my fucking show. Someone like Abel Ferreira, he's someone who just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it my way. I'm just gonna do it my shit. I'm gonna fucking be in my own movie and make it my way, you know, not listen to anyone.
Yeah, he's an artist, dude.
We got like 2 more months until Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer comes out.
Yeah.
That's probably my most anticipated movie of the year, dude. That and like Killers of the Flower Moon. But I think I'm more excited for the Oppenheimer just because I'm just obsessed.
Yeah, I'm excited for Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm excited for Wes Anderson, Oppenheimer. We're going to get some good movies this year.
Yeah, for sure. And then what do you expect from this new Christopher Nolan movie?
I think this is going to be a lot like
Dunkirk?
A little bit of a Dunkirk mixed with Interstellar. Matthew McConaughey plays this pilot that has to go on this crazy mission for the sake of like humanity. I feel like it's going to kind of be some similar trajectory for Oppenheimer, where he has to kind of, sacrifice a lot for this thing that is going to destroy the world, and sacrifice a lot of his like personal life for the greater good of mankind, horrors that come with that, changing the world.
Because this is a true story based on, what's his name, John Oppenheimer? I forgot his name, but Oppenheimer, the guy who developed the atomic bomb. And it's a true historical, like, this is his second movie, like, that happened, a real story that actually happened, and, like, Dunkirk actually happened. But he made period pieces with The Prestige was a period piece.
Yeah.
And then Dunkirk was a period piece. Christopher Nolan, this is going to be his third period piece, but I think he's a very modern, contemporary director. I think it's cool because he's used technology in other movies before, where it comes to like the Inception device, and then Tenet, you have like radiation and shit, like this nuclear radiation, and Oppenheimer is name dropped in Tenet. Even though the shit actually happened, this could be a movie, like let's just hypothetically like it didn't happen. This could be like a science fiction Christopher Nolan movie that actually like that he made up or some shit like that. Which is like what I'm really looking forward to, because it is a real life science fiction movie. I feel like it's going to have that to it. He's dealing with technology in a way. He's dealing with sort of like this industrial like feel to it, like the bomb and everything. And it'll be interesting to see what he does with that. And also something I'm looking forward to is what he's going to do with the time, space, and memory aspects. Because there's always something to do in time, you know what I mean? And however he does that, I know in this, there might be some non-linear qualities, because from the trailer you get like black and white trial scenes, and you get color scenes where they're out in the desert and whatever. And I wonder how he's going to deal with that. I do think that this movie will be a little bit more grounded compared to Tenet in a way. I think it'll be like a little more straightforward, because in Christopher Nolan's career, he does do sort of one for me, one for studio, one for me type vibe. You kind of got that with starting with, when he made The Dark Knight, he was like, okay, I'm going to go make Inception, which is my original screenplay baby, for like $160 million, this crazy concept that was like a blockbuster hit anyway. And then he went back, made Dark Knight Rises, which is for like the studio. And then he goes and makes his epic space movie Interstellar, original screenplay by his brother and himself. And then, he goes back to the historical stuff with Dunkirk, which is like more of a crowd pleaser, studio, like Oscar pleaser, even though that movie is experimental in its own right.
Well, I never really feel like he does it for them. I feel like it's all the things he does are for him, but it's more like, okay, he's multifaceted, right?
Yeah.
So there's an aspect of him that's really interested in this grounded stuff, and then there's an aspect of him that's really interested in this theoretical stuff.
Yeah, but I don't think it would be like, I don't think it would be a great decision for him to go and make another crazy sci-fi movie right after Tenet.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tenet was like a very polarizing movie, and I'm sure he loved it. I'm sure he really was passionate about it, and I love Tenet. And it's like for us, but it was very polarizing, and people were kind of confused, and like his intentions didn't necessarily like travel as far as something like Inception or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like him taking a swing and him doing like a little heat check for like how crazy he can go. You know what I mean? And like I think he's gonna reel it in more with Oppenheimer and make it more like grounded, easier to follow. It is a true story, so you can't like change things too much, right? I mean, unless he does some like alternative history shit.
You could. I wouldn't put it past him with this, you know?
Yeah, no, I just expect some crazy shit. I know the new trailer just came out like a couple days ago. I didn't see it, but I'm looking like whether, because in the last two trailers there weren't any explosions. Mm-hmm. Were there any explosions in the new trailer?
Maybe like a frame, but if I were you, I would try to avoid the new trailer.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit like they do in modern trailers nowadays, where that first trailer that you had seen was his intended trailer.
Yeah, no, I love the building of mystique to his movies because he's so secretive about his movies. Doesn't even want to talk about like anything, dude. He just wants like you to go see it, and it's all revealed. And I just look forward to seeing what the fuck he does with the bomb, bro. Yeah. That looks so. It's gonna be. I'm really, really excited.
And the sound design in this gets me so pumped for this movie. Just like the.
The sound design, the way it looks, and I know the score is gonna be lit. And then, like, I'm down to watch the trailer if I'm like in the theater. Before seeing it? You know.
Do you know who's the cinematographer? Is it Hoyt?
Yeah, it's Hoyt van Hoytman.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. But I do like his trailers are so good. Like they build so much suspense and intrigue and I don't want to watch it like on a phone. I want to like if I'm in the theater, like I don't want to go out of my. I'm not gonna go out of my way to watch the trailer because I like the mystique of it and shit. Like Dunkirk, I didn't watch any trailers for it before. I don't want to know anything about it. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I definitely want to see some crazy like almost real life science fiction type shit that he does with the bomb or whatever. However he does all the technology, and it always feels so grounded and practical. Dude. Yeah. And you know that they shot like real explosions for this, dude. Yeah. Like it's gonna be.
Yeah, they set off a real nuke for it.
And like the whole World War II aspect of like all of his movies have such high stakes now, dude. Every movie is like the world is ending. We have to save it. Like the city's burning down, and we like have to save this thing, or like. Just like the stakes are so high, it's gonna be interesting to see the historical context of World War II. Yeah. Them building this bomb, and they're like, "Fuck! Like we gotta like make this thing that's gonna either save the world or destroy the world." Yeah. And the idea of the nuclear bomb has so much not relatable, but it's just like so of our time now, still, bro. Yeah. Like a bomb that like can destroy all of humanity.
It shapes the world we know it today. You know, and. It is probably the most important thing that we've ever created in our society because it's so threatening. Like, it's so, like, destructive. And just, like, the destructions we have at our fingertips now, it's like...
Yeah, there's always this background anxiety of a nuclear bomb coming. Yeah. Like, I always think about, like, what if there was a bomb that blew up in downtown LA? Like, we wouldn't even know. It would just be, like, boom, like, it could just happen like that. We'd be 400 times more powerful than the Hiroshima shit, bro. Like, what they have now. So it's not even... it's a huge deal... This idea with bombs and shit, and I think that's going to have some sort of something with that like going down in this movie as well. You know, like we're seeing the development of a bomb. Like this is going to be so lit, bro. Like
but also,
not only is a Christopher Nolan movie, he's talking about this huge like thing that I would be interested in even if he wasn't directing it. You know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But also, I think I'm really interested in the depth they go with Oppenheimer's character because I think there was a lot of regret in creating this, like changing the world for the better or for the good, you know, like you can't deny that it
for good or for the better or for the worse of humanity. And I mean, like he's the guy who like technically invented the whole fucking bomb, bro. Like, and imagine being that in that guy's head, like the existential dread, like the existential like dread that you're the guy who created this thing. That's just like it'd be crazy to see like what they come up with on a technical aspect and then like on a thematic aspect with this guy. Because Christopher Nolan just goes so hard, dude.
He really
goes so hard. The stakes are so high, and I think he's really gonna deliver. Like there's, I mean, I'm a Nolan dick writer. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna love it no matter what, dude.
You are. It's gonna be cool.
I think people are gonna love it. I think people like my parents. I think my dad will probably like it. Yeah. You know, because my dad did not like Tenet. He doesn't like Inception. Like, history movies, like the boomers love history, especially World War II, dude. Boomers love World War II, bro.
Yeah, you really do.
They're like their favorite thing is World War II. Bro.
I know.
You know, I love World War II as well. Like it's like my favorite war. The most interesting. It's like the biggest event ever in history.
Yeah.